Hey, and welcome to another podcast, Valley Sunday. I'm one of your hosts, Chris Paco.
And I'm your other host, Jeff Cameron.
How's it going, Jeff?
Oh, delightful. How about you, Paco?
Very good. I'm excited to go down to the casino with the Monkees on today's episode, Monkees On The Wheel.
Yeah, man.
It is something else, I'll say that.
Yeah, man. This is our 46th episode of the show.
Yep, episode 46.
Not our show. We've had a few more than that.
Yeah.
But we're 46 into the Monkees series. Unreal.
Yeah, 12 left. It's nuts.
Wow.
Nuts.
Crazy to think about, man.
It is. It really is. One thing before we start and get going here, just to talk about, we've got the Monkees reunion farewell tour going on right now. I guess not a reunion, just a farewell tour with Mickey and Mike. And we have to point out, Jeff and I and our ladies, we had tickets to go see them in Detroit. We're both Canadian. And the borders didn't open up in time. And so we couldn't go see them. We had the open invite from Mike and his people to go see them backstage and stuff.
Yeah,
And
the show is on November 2nd, and the borders open November 8th.
yeah, we
Who earns?
missed it by 6 days. And we'll give a reach out to them just to see if perhaps we could somehow talk to them some other way and perhaps get them on the show. But it was definitely, I got to say, it feels weird for them to be on this farewell tour and for us to not make the point to see we did make the point to see them, but then to be shut out.
You made the effort. The attempts were made, but no, it's a bummer.
Yeah,
And what can you do, man? That's life sometimes.
it is. We have the
We'll catch
live
them on the next farewell tour. It'll be all right.
Yeah, and at least we did see them on the first Mike and Mickey show tour, so we didn't miss out entirely. But
yeah, that was delightful.
But yeah, if any of the Monkees people would like to bring us down for the absolute last show in Los Angeles, we could do a whole live podcast from the show and be there for the festivities.
Yeah, please, it'd be swell.
Yeah, it'd be a great time.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Oh, and also, one of our listeners sent us a picture over our Facebook. He sent us a picture from Monkees on the High Seas of Mike sick, like getting off the boat onto another boat to be taken away because he was so sick.
Oh, for real?
Yeah. So Tom is the listener who sent it to us. I just want to say thanks for that, because we were like, he just didn't want to do it. But there's this picture of him looking green in the gills, hopping on a little escape hatch boat to get out of there.
Well, thanks for that, Tom.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet. But anyway, we are dealing with Monkees on the Wheel, directed by Jerry Shepard, written by our buddy Coslow Johnson, and originally aired on December 11th, 1967.
You haven't heard a peep out of Coslow for quite a few episodes.
Yeah, he's probably getting a Get Smart ready to go or whatever.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So we open on some stock footage of Las Vegas in the 60s. And there's this voiceover saying that Las Vegas is a place where men come to find the things he loves most. The things he loves most. The things he loves most. And each time he says it, we see Peter chasing a girl, then Mike's chasing a girl, and then Davy's chasing a girl. No Mickey at this point.
Not yet.
And so then we cut to this tiny little roulette wheel and two gangstery looking guys. And one of them's pretty much doing Mickey's Cagney impression. I don't know. And his name is Boss.
All right, we've been planning this caper for 3 years, right? Right.
He's played by David Astor. And he says that the real roulette wheel is rigged to stop on red 16 for 5 minutes starting at 8, right? And the other guy says, right. And then the boss guy, he's talking. As he's talking, he's moving his cigar up and down. And the dumb gangster guy is just following it, bounce around like an idiot. And then the boss tells a dum-dum, whose name's Biggie, played by Pepper Davis. Great name.
Tremendous name.
So he tells him to go, so Biggie takes off. So back at the casino, Mickey's with a blonde girl. Her name's Zelda, played by Joy Harmon. And he's talking about how their love will go on forever and ever. And as he's talking, he's just giving the girl coins, and she's just feeding him into all these different slot machines and losing and losing and losing.
Mm-hmm. Did you recognize Joy?
I didn't recognize. She looked familiar, but I couldn't place her.
Yeah, she was at the bank they robbed a few episodes ago.
Oh, that's funny. I should have noticed that when I looked up her IMDb.
Yeah, that's, I believe it was Mike Nesmith's wife's friend from church.
Oh, wow. He asks her to tell him how much she loves him after she pulls the lever, and she reads what she got.
2 oranges and a banana.
And he thinks that it's love talk. And he's like, oh, 2 oranges and a banana.
That's phallic.
Yeah, it is. It's true. So Mickey continues to talk about their love and how it will go on, like
2 lemons and a crab apple.
And when he tells her that he has no more money, she tells him to buzz off, Charlie, and she walks away. And then Mickey has a Dolan's freak out, and he pulls the lever, and he wins big.
Buzz off, Charlie! God.
And suddenly she takes notice, and she tells him that he has magic fingers, and she kisses his delicate phalanges, and then she drops to the floor trying to pick up all the money. And Mickey says,
I thought she only loved me for my money.
and then we go into the intro.
Minute 40 this time. We're back to tight, lean, cold opens.
Yeah, finally. Actually, I kind of like the long ones when they kind of go crazy for a while.
It depends what they're doing.
Yeah, true enough. So for the intro music, they play like the Bugs Bunny music, essentially. That.
The under theme, yeah, they've used that. I think they used that on the when Mike is the songwriter guy. I think they use that one there too.
Perhaps, but I was kind of bummed out because I thought with going with the second season adaptations of the theme to the episode, I was looking forward to a glitzy casino-y
A
theme.
glitzy Vegas thing.
Yeah. They haven't done that last few episodes. Maybe they're done with that.
Maybe.
So Mike walks up to Mickey and the girl who's still collecting coins off the floor, and he says that Mickey promised them he wouldn't gamble, and he has to hurry up because they have a show to play. And again, a mention of them being in a band, which was kind of amazing.
Very brief.
I thought it was going to lead to something more with the band, like they were playing in a Las Vegas casino or something. We'd see some
Almost,
of
but
it.
not quite.
No.
Could have went there. They didn't.
Yeah. So
if you had brief mention that they are yes indeed a band on your Monkees bingo card, you get the square.
Yeah, dab that one. And so Biggie, the dumb gangster, he's looking at his watch, waiting for 8 o'clock to come. And Mike and Mickey are walking past. And Mickey's telling Mike that he didn't mean to gamble. And as he's telling him, he sets down the sack of money on the roulette table right on red 16. And then the guy says, no more bets. And he spins the wheel. And it lands on red 16 because it's after 8 o'clock. So the casino guy is played by Rip Taylor. In one of his most non-flamboyant Rip Taylor roles of all time. He kind of ramps up as the episode goes along, but at first he might sneak past you because he's pretty laid back.
He had not yet blossomed into, legendary Hollywood comedy nuisance Rip Taylor.
Yeah. So Rip tells him that he won, and he starts putting down sacks of cash on red 16 right in front of Mickey. He's now convinced he has magic fingers. So Davey comes up and he scolds Mickey and Mike that they should be rehearsing. And then Rip Taylor spins the wheel again. And Biggie tells Mickey that he shouldn't bet on that number because it's unlucky. But when Mickey tries to move the bags of loot, Rip Taylor smacks his hand and tells him he can't change his bet.
Don't you touch that money while that ball is moving, dum-dum!
Then the ball, of course, lands on red 16. So Mickey's super stoked. And he starts to wave his magic fingers around. And Biggie grabs his hand and crushes his fingers.
Magic fingers hurt!
And he tells Mickey, they told you it was an unlucky number. And Biggie tells Mickey he should leave, and Mickey agrees, but then Peter shows up and asks what's going on. They tell him about Mickey winning all the money, and then Mickey grabs the loot, but then Peter puts it back down onto red 16, and he says you should never quit while you're ahead. And so, of course, Biggie grabs Mickey, but Peter's like in between them, so he's like grabbing around Peter to grab, he's like hugging Peter to grab Mickey. And he says that he told him not to play that number, and Peter says he can play any number he wants, and it lands on red 16 again. And Rip Taylor turns it on. He starts to turn it on now once he starts winning a lot.
You could just die from this D16. I broke the whole bank.
So Rip Taylor tells Mickey that he broke the bank, and then he flashed to the boys like smashing a piggy bank. Then back to Rip Taylor, who he now has like the world famous Rip Taylor handkerchief, and he's like dabbing himself, and he goes on for a bit on the situation, all Rick Taylor like. So the boys carry the sacks of coins into their room on a stretcher, and they say that they have enough money to buy whatever they want. Then we cut to Boss and Biggie, who are talking, and the boss says that they need to get that money back. So Boss tells Biggie to get Della the decoy, and he yells at him to get out of there. So Mike tells the boys that they need to invest their money to something worthwhile. And we flash to Mickey with Zelda, and then Mike with the blonde girl, and Davey with the girl with black hair, and then Peter with a stuffed toy tiger. And then Peter says, "You must be joking," in an English accent.
You must be joking.
And Davey says, "That's my line." Then Peter apologizes, so then Davey says it.
You must be joking.
And then someone knocks at the door, and it's Biggie dressed as a maintenance man. And he and Davey go back and forth for a little bit. And then Davey says he can't be the maintenance man because they don't come that short. And Peter tells Davey that Biggie's not that short, and he should stand up and show Davey how tall he is.
I am standing up.
Yeah.
And so then suddenly, like, a sexy maid walks in, and this is Della. And she turns the boys into cartoon dogs who smell a steak. Like, they, like, float across the room. And Peter asks if she's a maintenance man too, and she says, "Sure, don't you like the way I'm maintained?" And so Davey takes a step towards her, and Mickey says, "Davey." And then Peter tries to go to her, and Mickey says, "Peter." And then Mickey says, "Well, Mike and I." And then they walk towards her, but the other two jump in. So they're all going crazy over this girl. And while the boys are distracted by Della, Biggie starts shoveling all the Mickey's winnings into his vacuum that he brought with him.
God damn it.
It's like one of those big shop vacuums.
Yeah. I like how right away they come into money, and they're not like, we're the starving band. We're probably behind on the rent. Hey, how are we going to get rid of all this money, guys?
Yeah, exactly. And so Rip Taylor goes on a bit of a tear about how the wheel has been rigged and he can't do anything about it. And it's a really great, funny Rip Taylor-y moment.
There's a wire attached to the thing. It's just rigged. It's bugged. It's just total loss. I've sent for the police. They'll help me because I know nobody else in the world helps but yourself. I just sent for the police because it's their job. I'm just a nervous.
I'm not letting you say Rip Taylor goes on a tear without laughing my ass off for a second. Anyway, go on.
So a cop walks up to him, and it's our old buddy Dort Clark. And he was in the picture frame in Monkees a la carte, and he's always playing a cop.
Oh, Dort.
And so Rip Taylor lets him know what's going on, and they go off to arrest Mickey. At least that's what I think they're going to do. I couldn't really understand. Because they just all of a sudden start leaving, so.
Is Dort short for something?
I don't know. I don't know what it could possibly be.
Is it the male version of Dorothy, perhaps?
Maybe. So back in the room, the boys are still fawning over Della, and Mickey starts to play like her feather duster like a guitar, and he's singing. And then Davey tells him to stop because she has a line. And she's like, "Say your line." And then she's like, "I don't have a line." And he's like, "Oh, you don't have a line?" He just like pushes her out of the frame.
Mickey, she has a line. She has a line.
No.
You don't have a line?
And as he pushes her, she's like definitely laughing for real. Like, I think that whole thing was not planned. Like, I think Davey actually.
It's just season 2, baby.
Yeah. I think Davey thought she had a line for real. And he's trying like, "Mickey, shut up. Let her do your line for God's sake." And she's like, "I don't have it. I don't do anything." And so during all this, Biggie wheels the vacuum out of the room with all the loot in it. And the boys finally realize they've been robbed, and they freak out.
Hey, we've been robbed! Police!
Please help! Money!
And they start calling for the cops, just calling out loud for the cops. There's a knock at the door, and when Peter answers it, he gets hit in the face with the door. And the cops come busting in, and they say they're the police. And Mike says,
What took you so long?
And so Rip points out Mickey and says he's the one with the magic fingers. And Mickey agrees and says that he's been robbed. Then Dort asks if he will sign the statement to say he's been robbed. And Mickey says, of course he will. So Dort hands the piece of paper to Davey, and he passes it to Mike. He passes it to Peter. He passes it to Mickey. And Mickey signs it. And then he has to ask the other guys how to make a capital M.
Capital M, take one line, 45-degree angle, 90-degree angle, that line, 45-degree angle in line.
Got it.
I don't think there's a 90-degree angle anywhere in an M. But anyway.
Yeah. I think we're going straight up. So Mickey hands a piece of paper back, and Dort tells him that now that he's signed a confession, they're all under arrest. And this seems like questionable police work at best. Like
Ruse, there it is. Against the Monkees.
That was more of just a blatant lie. Like, here, sign this. Yeah, and he just doesn't want to do his job. Dort's been a cop for too long. He's seen these guys 3 times. He's like, not again. I'm not dealing with these long-haired weirdos again. And so the boys all protest, but they're all taken away. So at the police station, the boys are there, and Mike says that he knows his rights and they can't do this. And they point out all the things that a Dort can't do, and he agrees with all of it. He's like, you're right. I shouldn't do that. And he says, but it's the way I've always done it. And then they all kind of accept that. Like, okay, yeah, it makes sense. So Dort asks where the money is, and Mike tells him it was stolen. And Dort says the stolen money was stolen. And he says, you can think of a better story than that. And so then they all start to tell, like, Jack and the Beanstalk, like, break it down and different things. And Rip cuts them off. Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Were you distracted by that enormous light they had in the police station?
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't your typical interrogation lamp. That was like a movie light or something, like a spotlight.
Yeah, like a jet landing light.
Like they got it off of the 20th Century Fox logo.
Yeah.
And wheeled it into the studio.
They won't miss it. So Rip cuts them off, and he says that they knew the wheel was rigged, but he actually says the reel was wigged. And then then Dave says the reel wasn't wigged, and they go off on that for a little while.
Wait a minute! Wait a second! I suppose you didn't know about the roulette wheel being rigged, did you?
The reel was wigged?
The reel was wigged.
Officer, arrest this man.
Wait, I didn't do it. I'm innocent. I didn't do a thing.
They do some fun stuff throughout this episode like that, and sometimes you wonder if it's they really flubbing it or they just rolled with it and like double flubbed it. It's great.
Yeah, it's awesome. So Mickey gets bummed that he doesn't actually have magic fingers. And then Davey tells him that he likes Mickey's fingers. And then Dort tells him that they can get the money back within 24 hours. He'll let them off the hook. But if they don't, they go to prison for 20 years. That's no pressure, guys. So now the boys are alone, and Mickey's saying that they don't even know who the crooks are. And Mike says, well, if they can't find the crooks, then maybe they have to get the crooks to find them. And Davey asks how they're going to do that. And Peter says maybe they can open a prison. And the boys do not like that joke.
Why don't we open a prison?
Ooh, is that stupid?
Oh, Peter.
They hate that joke that Peter told.
But they mispronounced crooks at least twice during that sequence. And I'm not sure if it's super intentional or not.
And then Mike says he knows how they can do it, and they converge and they discuss in hushed mumbles.
Mumble, mumble, mumble.
The boys walk into the casino, and they're all dressed very gangstery now, except for Peter, who's dressed like an accountant, essentially. And so Zelda comes back up to Mickey, and she says that she knows him from somewhere. And he says she doesn't because he's from Scranton, and he's got like a gruff voice. They all have gruff voices. And the boys were at the roulette table, and they're all sleepy for some reason. Like they're all falling asleep. And I don't know, maybe there's a scene cut or something. They all took sleeping pills or something. But so Rip spins a red 10, and they say it down the line, and Biggie's at the end of this line. And so Mickey recognizes him as the guy who crushed his hand. And Mike thinks he must be one of the crooks. So Mickey tells Biggie not to bother the professor, and that he's the insidious strangler, and he's the boss of this gang. And the professor's Peter, who's dressed up like a nerd, essentially. And Biggie says he wants to know why their gang is in town. And Mickey says they're there for robbery, extortion, and murder. And Mike says, sort of your regular tourist activities. But it really seems like the words tourist activities were dubbed in, and it sounds like it's Mickey saying them.
Sort of your regular tourist activities.
I think Mike might have said something else and they had to switch it up or something. I don't know. It looks and sounds very
like Vegas,
weird.
Baby. They couldn't get specific about it.
Yeah, maybe. Peter says that they're actually there to play a gig, and they all cover his mouth because he's being dumb and giving it away. So Biggie says that when his boss wants to know something, you better tell him. And Mickey asks who's going to make him. And then Biggie grabs one of those like rake things that people at casinos have to scoop up all the chips and the dice and stuff. Mm-hmm. So he smashes that over his own head. And there's a lot of reaction shots of Rip Taylor throughout this scene. Like constant going back to a close-up of Rip Taylor making weird faces. So Mickey calls over Davey and he calls him Muscles the Mauler. And Rip says,
Go play in the traffic if you're not going to gamble.
And so Mickey tells Davey to do the same thing. So Davey grabs the rake and he busts it over Biggie's head.
Oh, come on now. Separate checks for these two. Now, this is ridiculous. I only got one left.
And Mickey tells Biggie that Mike just spent 2 years in solitary confinement. And he said he could do it on his head. And then we flash to a shot of Mike that's upside down. And Biggie says, well, he'll give him 2 more years to get back on his feet again. Whatever. And then Biggie asks Peter what he does for the gang.
Who let Jack Winter into this episode?
Exactly, yeah. So Biggie asks Peter what he does for the gang. And he says that they're there to take over the town and win all the money. And he's got a system. He starts to rattle off a bunch of math speak. And he says that 7 plus 5 is 11. And Biggie says, no, that it's 12. And then Peter counts it with his fingers, with Biggie's fingers. He says, that's the missing piece of the theory, and now it's perfect. And then upside down, Mike says,
Isn't that dumb?
And so, there it is.
Wonderful. If you have that on your card, check it out.
So the boys are let into Biggie's office by Biggie, and they'll have gravelly voices, and Mike has a high voice. And the boss tells him to sit down, and then he and Mickey go through this whole performance art piece, essentially like they're making noises and pointing to each other, and then eventually they have like dueling Cagneys, of course.
Incredible. This is the peak. This is the absolute pinnacle of the Mickey Dolenz Cagney operation. It's like a boss fight.
And so Mickey tells the boss that the professor has a surefire way to rig casinos, and then he grabs Mickey and asks how. So Mickey, he says, hold on a second. He switches Peter with him being grabbed by the boss. And Peter tells him that's the equalization of ratios and explains it by pouring booze in these drinks and making them drink all these different shots of booze until Biggie and Boss are too drunk and then they pass out.
Twice.
Yeah. Back to back, like within the same scene. So they pass out and everyone's stoked with Peter, but Mike reminds them that they still have to find the money. So they start searching around, and somehow they set off an alarm, which then wakes up the boss, but he's so drunk that he says that they're in, and they can use their system with his money. And he slams his hand down on the desk, but he actually slams it down on Mickey's fingers. So they all go down to the casino, and a guy walks up to Mike, and he like holds his nose and then smacks it with the other hand. And he says, and Mike says, what? I'm not Wizard Glick. And the guy says, oh. And then he just walks away.
Wizard Glick is from another episode coming up. I think it's Monty Landis. I think one of his characters is Wizard Glick in an upcoming episode.
Interesting. I
wonder
if
I don't know, a foreshadowing thing or like a very early multiverse deal in the MCU, the Monkees Cinematic Universe.
I hope it does come up somehow. Like Mike's like,
Wizard Glick is a Monkees thing.
But I hope Mike like references this moment. I'm saying like if he's like, oh, Wizard Glick, and he goes up to him and smacks him in the nose or something.
Yeah, pretty sure.
So anywho,
mad foreshadowing.
At a roulette table, Constable Dort is there, and he asks where the money is, and Mickey points to the bag with Boss and Biggie because they brought the money so they could gamble with the system. So they start to take the money out, and Dort asks Mickey why he doesn't take the money, and Mickey asks Dort the same thing, like, why don't you take the money? And he says, I don't have proof that it's stolen money. So now all of a sudden, Dort's playing by the books. Like, he could just say, that's stolen money, you're coming with me, bad guys, like he did with Mickey. But no.
He's good cop, bad cop, and good cop.
Yeah, all the same cop. Rip says that they better make sure they lose that money. And Mickey says, no problem. And he asks Peter what the number is, and he says 24 red. So Mickey tells Dort that Boss is going to lose on his first spin. And Boss overhears him. He says, what'd you say? And Mickey says that you're going to choose on the first win. And the boss tells Mickey that 24 red better win. So Rip spins the wheel, and Zelda walks up back to Mickey, and she says that she knows him from somewhere. And he says he's from Transylvania. She said, but you said you're from Scranton. And so the ball ends up on 24 red. And Boss and Biggie are super stoked. They won. And Rip is going to have a stroke. Like, he's freaking out that these guys won the money. And Dort tells Mickey that they win over $1 million. He's going to throw away the key and fill the cell up with cement. So back to bad cop.
It's a wild phrase.
Yeah.
That's quite the threat.
Yeah. You better hope the cell is like solid. It's a cell with like bars and the cement just keeps rolling out into the hallway. You can't understand why these guys aren't drowning. So Mickey asks Peter for another number, and he says 212 green. And then Mickey protests, that's not even a number. And then Peter says yes, so there's no way that they can win. And Rip Taylor's super excited. Because at first, when Peter says the number, Rip Taylor's like... And then when he tells him his plan, he's like... Which is, I think Rip Taylor, they just call him in and give him no lines. Just be like, do your thing, dude. And he does his thing.
For real. Just pull his string. He goes off.
Yeah. So Zelda shows up and Mickey just shoos her away. And so Rip spins the wheel and it ends up on 22 green. And Rip loses his mind. The money just piles up and up and up. And then Zelda comes back again. And she says she's sure she knows him. She never forgets a wallet. Mickey hands her like a couple stacks of bills, like thousands of dollars. He just like hands her to go away. She takes off. Boss asks Mickey why he's giving away his money, but Mickey just ignores him. Like Boss doesn't seem to care about it after. He just asks the question. And Mickey asks Peter what number's next. And Rip says they don't have any plaid. And Mickey says, well, I guess we lose everything. And Zelda pops back up and she says, I knew you. He's magic fingers. The boss catches on now that it's been laid out right in front of him. Like the entire plan's laid right out. He's like, oh, wait a minute. I get this. Yeah, dude. Nothing gets past boss. So then he yells at Biggie to get him. So leads us into the Monkees romp with Door into Summer. Fantastic. Our current number 1 on the Randomatic Countdown.
Yes, indeed. Not a very rompy tune, but hey, anytime it's on, I'm going to listen to it.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's them. They're all running around the table both ways. Then they all scatter. Zelda steals all the money. And Peter gives Biggie a flower, which makes him sneeze. Mickey's like riding the spinny thing on the roulette table. I guess the roulette wheel is what it's called. Peter and Davey are roughing up Biggie, but a beautiful woman walks by and they forget all about him and go after her. And Davey spins a big, huge wheel and stops it himself, and then he kisses one of the girls playing the game. There's 3 girls playing this spinning game. So then Biggie's roughing up Peter and Davey, but the same woman walks by, and then Biggie forgets about them and he chases her. Davey spins the wheel, stops it, kisses the next woman. Boss and Biggie bump into each other, and Biggie gives Boss the flower, which makes him sneeze. Davey kisses the 3rd woman playing the game, of course. Mike's like a scale, and Mickey's putting coins in each hand to try to balance him out, but eventually he falls over. Dort is chasing the boss, but he gives him the flower, which makes Dort sneeze. Zelda's playing the slots, and then she comes up to Mickey and she pulls on his arm, and a bunch of coins hit the floor. I don't know where they came out of. I thought he was going to spit them all out, but we just cut to his feet and you see a bunch of coins. It's like his water broke, but a bunch of coins fell out of him. Dort gives Rip the flower and Rip sneezes. Everyone fights over the bags of cash. Peter's spinning on the roulette wheel and he's handing out flowers as he goes around, and people keep walking past him. People playing keep away with the bag again, like throwing the bag of money to each other. Rip gives Peter the flower. He sneezes. This is a very sneezy flower.
A lot going on with that flower.
Yeah, more keep away with the bag, and then that beautiful woman walks through again, and Peter goes after her. Then we cut to another thing. While Peter's sneezing, Mike takes the flower, takes a petal off, and he eats it for some reason. And everyone's running around the table, and then Boss and Biggie get too tired and they pass out, and Peter pours all the cash on them for some reason.
Okay.
See, and the one thing with Door into Summer, maybe because of its content of like gathering your riches throughout your life and then realizing at the end that you wasted your time, kind of fits in with what they're going here. So
it's thematically sound. How about that?
Exactly. Unlike last week's where, what was it? They could have played a song that was more swashbuckly or something. I can't remember what it was now, but
more swashbuckly than Daydream Believer?
Yeah, like they should have played Going Down then instead. You know what I mean? To go
Probably,
with what they're doing. But whatever, that was last episode.
It's not like, playing Laugh when the boxing sequence is on.
Yeah, exactly.
That's poetry, man.
Yeah. It's a juxtaposition, man. You'll laugh when you get punched in the face. Right, man? Come on, man. Dave, you've been drinking. Always, man. So anyway. Yeah, I know. It's been a long time since Davey Powers showed up.
Yeah.
So anyway, we cut to a scene, and Mike, Peter, and Davey, they're in front of the camera, like looking right at the camera. And Mike explains that the show is over, but they have to do a tag, which is something that is so hilarious it makes you want to tune in next week. And that Peter, Davey, and Mickey are going to be doing it. And it's kind of cool breaking down that wall and showing you some showbiz
they
stuff.
Take the fourth wall and put it in the wood chipper.
Yeah.
And they're just sitcom 101. Here we go.
Yeah, pretty much. So then they go through a piece where Davey says that they never would have been in this mess if it wasn't for Mickey's gambling problem. And Peter says, well, at least I don't have to worry about it anymore, right, Mickey? And like throughout the thing, when Peter and Davey are talking to each other, whenever they say Mickey, it just cuts to a flash of Mickey dressed as the gangster.
Like a frame of Mickey.
Yeah, like a blast flash of Mickey. And then, so then Mike comes back out, and he explains that now they're going to cut to footage of Mickey gambling, and then cut back to us. Cut back to us, cut back to us, because they keep cutting to Mickey, cutting back to them. They keep using Mike saying that over and over. And then he says, and so it's Mickey pretending to gamble, and then he wins money or something. And then they have to make a pain face to the camera, and they all make this face. And then Mike loses it laughing at this ridiculous thing. Which brings us, obviously, to Cuddly Toy. It's the boys. They're all playing. Mike's playing guitar, sitting on top of the piano that Peter's playing, and then Mickey's on the drums, and Davey's just dancing up front playing. They're in like these suits with like the hats on and like a vaudevillian kind of look, I guess.
Yeah, definitely a vaudeville thing. Like this is, I think, in like the mid to late '60s, like vaudeville was kind of like it was having like late '90s. We had swing music. Which is, for a minute, it was extremely hip, unbelievably annoying. And then, so, like, maybe the vaudeville and the whole that kind of shit kind of came back a little bit. And maybe they just thought they'd put on the striped suits and stuff. I think Davey still wore that jacket a couple times. At least a couple times when I seen him play live with the Monkees. I mean, wait, who's got that jacket?
She's got my jacket.
Yeah, no, it's cool. And it's a cool little scene of them up on stage playing, and they're all doing their thing. Mickey's on drums, and they're all doing the harmonies and stuff. It's a cool thing.
It's cute. It's fun.
And definitely one time, man, Davey, he sometimes looks like one of those toys where you push the bottom and they go all limp and get, you know what I mean? Like, and that's not an insult.
One of them byway, yeah, I know exactly what you mean. That's funny.
Yeah, and it's like he sometimes looks like water when he's dancing. Like he's just like doing full-on Davy Jones moves. It's fantastic.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's a different mix in this episode because, I don't know, it's not Davy doesn't seem as prominent. It seems like there's a lot more Mickey. It's almost more of them singing together, which really doesn't happen super a lot. And I think I've said that at least once before. But here's a good example of them singing together.
Yeah, and also the end of it, like that light.
Yeah, that's not there.
That's not there at all. It's just like light, done.
Nope.
We're done. Because I guess, they weren't playing an empty theater. The place was packed. So then after that, we now go to, it's a blooper reel from the Monstrous Monkey Mash, which we haven't seen yet. It's coming up in a few episodes. And it's
like around here, I'm like, how short was this episode?
Yeah. And they don't do the interviews really anymore. So I had to fill it up with all this other stuff.
No, that after that disastrous interview in the Rainbow Room there, when Mickey was like, I'm too tired.
Yeah.
He was alone.
Yeah, true. And so then it's Mike and Mickey. They're going through a scene thing where he's like, oh, Mike says, hey, man, that's a groovy button. What's it say? And Mickey says, love is the ultimate trip. And he says, well, that's a groovy button. What does it say? And Mike's supposed to say, save the Texas prairie chicken. But for whatever reason, he cannot get through this line.
Cannot do it.
Yeah.
Sometimes just looking at Mickey, who is trying not to laugh,
Yeah, exactly.
sets him off.
And you can see a couple times Mickey did like the "come on, man," but he couldn't get through it. And then that's the end of the episode right there.
Do you know what a prairie chicken is?
I do not.
I think it like the Texas prairie chicken he's talking about is for real a Texas prairie chicken. But in University, do you remember the shot, the Prairie Fire, which was I think it was tequila and Tabasco sauce,
Gross.
right? And the prairie chicken was tequila, Tabasco sauce, and a raw egg.
Oh God, I thought it was
Enjoy.
I thought it was gonna be like because you're a chicken. It was like orange juice and a cherry. You're being a Texas
Nope.
prairie chicken, but no, it's something way more disgusting.
It's a poultry modification to a shot designed to make you barf.
There you go. Like those shots are like what? Why? Who? Why? Who's doing these shots other than on someone's birthday when you want to make someone throw up? And that's such a
definitely.
young person move. Like older people, could you imagine? Happy 50th birthday. Here's your cherry fart chicken, and you're drinking whatever this thing is just to make your buddy throw up. It's like you're not going.
The goal was to be able to spell your initials on the bar in front of you with the shots on your birthday. Like, gah.
I changed my
Hard
name
pass.
to ...
If your friends are your so-called friends are coming at you with Goldschlager, this and that. Like, oh,
Goldschlager.
Yeah,
Who's how is that still in business? Goldschlager.
I'm not sure it is. I have not looked for it, but I'm not sure. I don't know if Goldschlager is still around.
Maybe. If not, it's like you kind of did that to yourself, Goldschlager, by making the most disgusting drink you could make.
No doot.
But anyway, so yeah, that's the end of the show. Overall thoughts of this. I'll go back. I thought there was going to be something about the band in it, foolishly, just because
Nope.
it was set up for it. And again, I feel once the laugh track went away, the episodes went off the rails. Like anything goes. There's a slight skeleton of a story and a script,
Yeah.
but that's as far as it goes.
Yeah. There's a lot more outtakes left in, a lot more like sort of like riffing upon riffing. There's no laugh track getting in the way. You can edit it differently. The cuts are quicker. The lines are right up against each other now. And like like we were saying, it's at the end of the episode, there's the lengthy tag about explaining how the show works, and then there's Cuddly Toy, and then there's the blooper reel. And so like, and it didn't feel like there was that much show missing, but it was just so compressed. Yet all that Rip Taylor, all that goofing around, and just it's all just in there. It's action packed.
It is, and you're probably right because they're cutting things so close together now. They're probably losing like seconds that end up to be minutes in the cut.
Yeah,
and they're
for
like,
sure.
oh
Like
gosh,
suddenly 22 minutes is 20 minutes.
yeah. And NBC's like, you owe us 22 minutes, monkeys. So, one thing, no guns in an episode with gangsters.
And cops.
Yeah. They weasel in guns when they're driving little kids around in dune buggies and playing with puppies. But when it's gangsters and cops, they can't get a gun in there.
That's pretty impressive. Maybe this is a challenge put upon them by pacifist Peter Tork
Perhaps.
and his pet pig Porky.
We might have to just look, but maybe someone has one in their waist belt or something. Like, I don't know. It's very shocking that even like as an accessory, they wouldn't have a gun with them.
That's wild. And I think at this point we're still at a single-digit number of episodes that do not have guns.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, at the end of this, when we're done episode 58, we'll have like a roundup.
A gun down.
Yeah. Of different things.
Episode
that the
1,
Monkees
yes.
have done.
Episode 2, yes. Episode 3, no. Episode 4, yes.
Highlight of the show for you.
Oh, I gotta go with the Texas Prairie Chicken. It's just Mickey and Mike being hilarious.
Yeah. And even though it's not even a part of this show, it's a part of this show.
No.
And it's
Like in the show itself, I think this is the first time we see, aside from like the Rainbow Room, like Mike's second half of season 2 look, which became sort of iconic amongst us Monkees fans with the shades, with shirt and tie, no jacket.
yeah, no hat.
Like like there's some you could definitely see they developed their sort of personality and their style while they were on the road in between doing Headquarters and Pisces, and when they went to London and all that happened between records. It's insane, and they were like halfway through doing a season of TV.
Yeah,
it's hard to get perspective on how busy these guys were.
That's what I always try to think, man. Now we'll talk about this on a future episode, but the new Andrew Stanton book, Monkees Day by Day, it will definitely break down how busy they were, because it literally goes day by day and what they were doing, and
that's nuts.
It's fantastically researched, and it's an amazing book. It weighs like 54 pounds, but it's
So next season, me and Paco are going to live day by day as the Monkees. We're going to move to Malibu.
Yeah,
and we're going to rent a beach house, and we're going to do exactly what the Monkees did.
Yeah, every day. And we'll put it up here, and everybody can follow us. Or if you want to skip ahead, you can just read the book.
A kid is going to give us a horse on the beach, and we're going to have to take it back to the farm. Numerous princesses from fictional countries are going to need rescuing.
Yep, we're going to have to marry so many of them before midnight. I agree, that's my highlight of the show as well. Was there a Monkees ruse? Of course, when they were gangsters, they're rusing.
Oh, yeah.
Fourth wall break, very many of them. The biggest one definitely was explaining what a tag was, and they totally break that fourth wall down. All right, best musical moment for me, obviously Door Into Summer. It's my favorite song, so it has to be my favorite musical moment. Although I do like the Cuddly Toy performance piece too.
True.
Classic Monkees moments. The biggest one I think is the double shot of Isn't That Dumb?
For real. It's probably the only, maybe, we'll see if it's the only time it happens twice in an episode.
Yeah, because we're getting down to the nits and grits, so it's we're running out of time to see what happens in episodes. Anything that wouldn't fly in 2021, I think it's pretty tame.
This is like a primitive version of Las Vegas.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Well, fake Vegas, but like, this is like Rat Pack times. So this is just Vegas is just starting to become a thing.
Yeah, they probably paid the Monkees to do an episode about Vegas so they could get some free press. Which I guess if they paid them, it's not free. But anyway. So we're in the Did You Know section. There isn't a whole lot for this. David Astor, who's the boss, he has 12 credits to his whole thing. Pepper Davis, who played Biggie, has 14 credits. Joy Harmon, Zelda, 32 credits. Sharon Hillier, who played Della, she has 21 credits. Many of them are just like Bikini Girl and like Bartender Girl. For her is a bummer.
That's typecasting.
Yeah, definitely. Dort Clark, he wins this episode as a cop. He was the cop, and he has 85 credits. And Rip Taylor has 53 credits. I thought it would be like 156.
I don't think he's in a ton of stuff. He just shows up on,
I guess,
like Hollywood Squares or whatever, and just ingratiates himself into your psyche.
Well, he was also with the Jackass guys too. I think he ends the Jackass movies.
Yes.
Oddly enough. One thing I found, which I think is a bit of a stretch here, but it says in National Lampoon's Vacation, when Chevy Chase is yelling police brutality, when the guy, it's a reference to Mickey yelling it in this episode.
That's a tough dot to connect, my friend.
I would have to hear it like in a Harold Ramis interview or something, or one of the other writers, to say, yes, that's what that is from, because it was on IMDb, but I think people are talking souse.
I think you chucked that in the unlikely file.
Yeah, definitely.
I've got a few things about this show.
All right.
About this episode, specifically from when it aired, which was like mid-December.
Yep.
1967. And with that night, CBS usually has Gunsmoke up against the Monkees. But instead, for this episode, National Geographic special about sharks.
Ooh.
So, sharks versus monkeys, and the Monkees came in second this week, folks.
Yeah, a shark will always beat a monkey.
And other stuff that happened out in real life outside of this show, the week that this aired, Davy Jones quietly got married to Linda.
Oh, wow.
And whom I guess we're not supposed to listen to. And also, this was right around the time that Bob Rafelson and Jack Nicholson finished their first draft of the soon-to-be-made Monkees movie. And you know what the working title of it at this point was?
What was it?
Changes.
Weird. Interesting.
Yeah.
So for me, my personal memory connected with this episode is the blooper reel that saved the Texas Prairie Chicken part. Because back in the day, when Jeff and I, we used to do like a Wayne's World-esque show in my basement called the Jeff Cameron Show along with Jamal. And we did a whole skit that was a recreation of that bloopers scene. And I remember watching it. We had my friend was there, Phil. He was our special guest at the time.
Oh, my
and he just did not know what was going on. And it was, I think it fell flat with our viewers.
Yeah, no, that was our viewers. Hysterical.
And also to go back to Save the Texas Prairie Chicken, when I had my Zoom call with Mike Nesmith, when you're filling out this form, like, oh, what do you want him to sign? What about it?
Yeah.
For me, I wanted him to write Save the Texas Prairie Chicken on the album. But then when we were talking or something, he said he wanted to write Smoke 'em if you got 'em. And I was like, okay, that's pretty funny. And he came up with it in a moment. So we went with that instead.
Yeah,
but if
awesome.
I ever have him sign something else, I'm going to get him to say Save the Texas Prairie Chicken.
Awesome.
And all right, that is everything for the episode. But wait, what's this? What do I hear? Everybody's favorite second half of the show. The Randomatic Countdown featuring the Woolhat of Mystery.
Yeah, buddy.
Here we go.
Let's get on into that hat, Paco.
All right. I'll go first this time. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to, but I'm doing it.
I'm pretty sure it's your turn.
Here we go. Oh, what a night.
But if I could live that night again, it would be the same. And if I had...
So, Oh, What a Night from Justice, sung by Sir David Jones. Again, it's definitely not a bad song by any means. I like the ending, that verbose, grandiose ending.
I say another day.
I really think they sound great all over this album where they sing together.
Yeah.
I just really like the way they sound. Like there's like actual harmonies, and the blend is really cool. And this is another example of that. But the song is like 3 minutes and 13 seconds, feels twice that.
Yeah, it really does.
Like some of the, my first songwriting credit style rhyme schemes involved.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I don't know, man.
It spins its
Whatever,
wheels.
but I do like the sing-along parts and the grand ending, which quite a few of those on Justice, it turns out.
Yeah. It seems like a song, it's good, like it's fine, but it just like spins its wheels and doesn't really go anywhere, essentially. There's a cool guitar solo in there too, but overall, not one of my favorite jams, that's for sure, off Justice. I almost feel like I've got to go through like the bottom like 20 or something, like listen to them again, because I'm kind of like, what is this one? What is this one?
Anyway, well, Teeny Tiny Gnome, above or below?
What number is Teeny Tiny Gnome?
122.
Oh, wow. I'd go higher than that. I guess we're like every step of the way down here too, which is weird. What about like between, I wouldn't say it's better than Peter Percival either. Let's put it between I Never Thought It Peculiar and If I Knew at number 112.
All right. I almost wish Davey covered the Four Seasons tune, which I hate.
I agree. Same.
Pago, whenever you're ready, just pass that hat on over here.
All right. Get on in there.
Good news. It's daily, nightly, motherfuckers.
Ooh, bum, 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 bum.
Dark and rolling figures move through prisms of no color. Hand in hand they walk the night, but never know each other.
Killer bassline riff sampled into our season 2 theme song for those eagle-eared out there. Daily Nightly, written by Michael Nesmith, sung by Mickey Dolenz, drummed by Fast Eddie Ho, bassed by probably Chip, maybe Peter. I don't know. We can look it up later. And guitared by Mike, and Moog synthesizered by George Michael Dolenz. I think he purchased the third Moog synthesizer ever made. And here it is. And he's just like, he's just doing the Mickey Dolenz thing on the synthesizer, just winging it and having a blast.
Yeah, and it's arguably like the first time a Moog synthesizer was used on a rock recording. It's a historical track for sure. It is Chip Douglas on the bass as well. And the lyrics are like about the curfew riots. The Sunset Strip curfew riots as well. So just a great song. Just so awesome, so trippy, so weird. I'll always be bitter. It's not on the Monkees psychedelic, like that album that came out that had all their psychedelic songs. It wasn't on it. And instead, She was on it. And I was like, I like She a lot, but it's not more psychedelic than Daily Nightly.
As we've discussed, it's got that filthy, garagey bass line, and it's great. So there's just not enough room on the record for all the sort of garagey tunes. If it came down to it, I might have left off Star Collector and just had this as the Moog song.
Yeah,
but whatever.
I feel, as we've said before, the Adorned to Summer, Love Is Only Sleeping combo, they kind of go together so well. For me, it's Daily Nightly Star Collector kind of work together so well.
The synthesizer, and I think they have the similar videos.
Yeah,
don't they?
I think so.
Aren't they in the white sweaters?
Yeah,
and the
that's probably why. Yeah. So where do you feel Daily Nightly should go on this list here?
Like just hearing it again, and this happens to us now and then, where we hear a song again, we're like, oh shit, this is a excellent tune.
So radical.
And this is one of them, for sure. Just like Going Down was, and I think it goes around Going Down, maybe right behind it. Our new number 17 is Daily Nightly.
There you go.
By the Monkees.
I was going to say, definitely has to go up high.
You cool with that?
Yeah, definitely. It's good. But all right, I'm going to reach in and pull out our third and final song of the day.
Here we go.
It is, oh my God, you can't believe it. She.
Yes. Tremendous.
What are the odds of that? She's like, oh yeah, you want to replace me? Give me another listen.
She told me that she loved me, and like a fool I believed her from the start. She said she'd never hurt me, but then she turned around and broke my heart.
All right, so She, from More of the Monkees, Mickey Dolenz singing away.
Oh,
great tune.
This is a Boyce and Hart joint, I believe.
Yeah, it is. It honestly, the people listed, there's 25 musicians listed on this song, which is crazy. So yeah, so as far as She goes, I definitely dig that song. See, it's one of the ones that was on the very first Monkees Greatest Hits, like the album that got us both into the Monkees, the first thing that we both got into. So it's one of those songs I've heard a million times. So I played that every night when I went to bed.
Billion.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it really reminds me of listening to my mom's record. She had Monkees and More of the Monkees. And this is one of the songs, like a deeper cut, is still on the show. And like they play in the suits in the blue room there. And Peter's on the keyboards. And like you say, there's 25 credited musicians on here, but this is one of those, like more of a garagey tune that could be convincingly convincingly banged out by four dudes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, it's a great tune. It's one of the low key standouts on More of the Monkees for sure. And so as far as the the old Randomatic Countdown goes, I'm thinking maybe it goes.
Feels like an upper jam, Paco. Feels like an upper jam to me.
See, I had it around 40. I had it at 45 between little bit me, little bit you, and She Hangs Out. But I'm up for discussion.
That's I don't know. That's a bit lower than I expected. But hey, you pulled the tune. You put it where she goes.
Where would you put it then in here?
Like, I would at least have it in the 30s, Mary Mary, and whatnot, right around there, I would say. But maybe that's just me.
Okay, let's put it in at number 39 between Moonfire and You Didn't Feel That Way Last Night.
Ooh, it's infiltrating the Dolenz Jones Boyce and Hart triumvirate.
Yeah.
And seriously, Moonfire and She sound just fine put together, I would say.
Yeah, I agree.
So the hat opened slow, but gave it to us good right at the end here.
Did it ever? It really came through, as it's known to do at times.
Oh, yeah.
I almost like it when we have like jams and jellies mixed into the same Randomatic Countdown. We'll have
absolutely
mystery, rather than like
they are both fun to talk about, but it's also fun to listen to the good tunes.
Oh yeah, it is. That's why I don't want all jellies, that's for sure. But it has happened, and all jams happens. It's nice, but then you get worried, like, what are we getting left with here?
Yeah.
So,
but then there's like songs like this one where like you kind of forget you probably haven't listened to it for 10 years because you know what that song sounds like.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, we hope that this list takes Monkees fans back to some songs they forgot or songs they didn't even remember that they forgot, and spark some renewed interest.
Yeah, buddy.
Well, okay. Well, that wraps up our show, I'd say, on this. It seems like an extra long edition of Podcast Valley Sunday. So much happened in Monkees at the Wheel.
Yeah, it was actually, in fact. Hey, that's a groovy button. What does it say?
Save the text. And on that note, so from me, Paco.
And me, Jeff.
Have yourselves a Monkees little evening.
Thank you. Bye-bye.